Mr. President, reserving the right to object, I want to note at the outset, we're not asked to vote in this chamber on polling questions. We vote on legislation. And while people, when responding to a poll, may respond overwhelmingly in response to certain questions, it doesn't mean that when they come to understand fully what the law at issue would actually do, that they wouldn't feel differently. The truth is that the legislation that we're being asked to pass by unanimous consent today without additional debate, discussion, opportunity for amendment, opportunity for input by the public. The bill that is S-494, the Background Check Expansion Act, has some real problems with it, problems that I think make it a bill that stands to transform, in some circumstances, ordinary, law-abiding citizens into criminals. We always have to consider this when evaluating any law, particularly any law with criminal implications, that touches on a constitutionally protected right enumerated in a constitutional amendment. And under this legislation would render unlawful what in countless circumstances would be lawful and even constitutionally protected behavior. Now, most would not think twice about lending a firearm to a family member for sporting or personal protection purposes. And yet this bill threatens to do that by narrowing the definition of family to such an extent that passing a gun to a daughter-in-law or to a great-grandson could lead to criminal charges. This bill fails to distinguish between a criminal act and a gesture of trust and safety. The only conceivable way to enforce such a law is through the creation of an expansive Orwellian National Gun Registry. Yes, a National Gun Registry. It's here that we arrive at the true purpose, or at least the true inevitable outcome of this legislation were it to become law. Universal background checks only work when you have a National Gun Registry, even though, and notwithstanding the legitimate policy concerns embraced by Congress when Congress prohibited the creation of such a registry in the Firearms Owners Protection Act. And registries lead inevitably to gun confiscation. If you don't believe me, you don't want to take my word for it on that. Just look to the public statements made by some of my colleagues in the Senate and our counterparts in the House. They told us confiscation is the goal. Now, the senator asks us to pass this major legislation without any debate, without any meaningful opportunity for amendment, further discussion. This isn't how Congress works. This certainly isn't how the United States Senate should work, certainly not on a matter so significant and so directly tied to an enumerated constitutional right as this one. This bill should, of course, go through the Senate Judiciary Committee, a body on which I serve, and a body where members routinely can and do debate, offer amendments, and raise these and other policy and constitutional concerns. I also want to speak to a moment to what was referenced as the gun show loophole. It is not, in fact, a loophole. There is no such loophole. The effect of the law is that if you are a federally licensed firearms dealer, you have to perform these functions before you sell it, with or without you being in the presence of a gun show. If an FFL shows up to a gun show and sells guns, the FFL has to conduct the background check. It isn't a loophole. Moreover, we're talking about a tiny, minuscule percentage of people who even do these things. We're looking at the overwhelming percentage. According to the Department of Justice Bureau that collects crime statistics, a tiny percentage of people who even buy them at gun shows go on to commit crimes with them, like less than 1%. Very few of them even buy them in any retail establishment, opting instead to buy them on a clandestine market in an illegal way. So at the end of the day, we have to evaluate this law just like we would with any law, but this law in particular, given that it touches on a constitutionally protected, enumerated right, that it would punish the law-abiding citizens for the actions of criminals. I'm confident that at the end of the day, we should choose common sense over fear. We should choose liberty over control. And we should choose the rights of the law-abiding many over the criminally minded few.